Hello and welcome to the World News Review on Independent Television Abuja. I'm Kira Obwili. The United Nations Monday rejected the European Union's plea to exempt European firms from sanctions on Iran to be reinstated next month. For this and more, let's join Evie Egwari.
The United States has rejected pleas from the European Union to grant exemptions to European firms from the sanctions on Iran that will start to be reinstated next month. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin wrote in a letter that they wanted to exert unprecedented pressure on Tehran. Waivers will only be given on national security or humanitarian grounds. President Donald Trump ordered that the sanctions be reimposed in May after abandoning a nuclear deal with Iran. Eritrea has reopened its embassy in Ethiopia in further evidence of a rapid thaw between the two countries that a week ago ended 2 decades of military stalemate over a border war in which tens of thousands died. In a brief ceremony on Monday, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Eritrea's President Isaias Afwerki jointly raised the Eritrea's flag inside a newly refurbished embassy as a military band played Eritrea's anthem. Pakistan's jailed former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif appealed for his 10-year prison sentence on Monday, his party just days after returning to the country ahead of parliament elections later this month. Violence has escalated in the run-up of the balloting, with horrific attacks over the weekend, killing 153 people, including a provincial assembly candidate, during an election rally in southwestern Balochistan province. Sharif was sentenced in absentia on July 6 over his family's purchases of luxury apartments in London.
President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria has solicited the intervention of the International Criminal Court (ICC) to press its OPAN member countries not to obstruct the repatriation of illicit funds warehoused in their countries. President Buhari, who made the appeal on Tuesday while delivering a keynote address at the solemn hearing to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Rome Statute of the ICC in The Hague, Netherlands, also assured the international community of a free, fair and peaceful 2019 elections in the country. While congratulating his countryman, the president of the ICC, Judge Chile Ebo Osuji, and the judges of the court, he called on state parties to support ICC with jurisdiction over serious cases of corruption and illicit financial flows by state actors. Buhari said ICC has given hope for justice to so many by demanding strict adherence to rules of international humanitarian laws and preventing impunity, promoting adherence and respect for the rule of law, fundamental freedoms worldwide, and to punishing those in leadership positions responsible for the most appalling crimes and atrocities. Tanzanian President John Magufuli says his party, Chama cha Mapinduzi, will be in power for eternity. For this and more, let's join Blessing Omaro.
Tanzanian President John Magufuli has said his party, Chama cha Mapinduzi, will be in power forever. Mr. Magufuli's comments were broadcast on radio on Monday evening and come hot on the heels of his controversial suggestion that prisoners be made to work long hours and be punished if they are lazy. Rights groups have accused him of growing intolerant, and Mr. Magufuli has lost his initial huge popularity by clamping down on the media and targeting opposition politicians. Mr. Magufuli is not the first leader to make such a prediction. There has been a barrage of criticism in the U.S. after President Donald Trump defended Russia over claims of interference in the 2016 elections. At a summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Finland, Mr. Trump contradicted U.S. intelligence agencies, saying Russia had no reason to meddle. Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates said in a statement that Russia is responsible for ongoing pervasive attempts to undermine U.S. democracy, although Mr. Putin denied the claim.
The Zimbabwean government has offered the rest of its workers a salary raise a week after it hiked salaries of members of the defense forces and police by 22.5% and 20% respectively, with effect from July the 1st. The Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, Simbarashi Mubengegwi, confirmed the 17.5% salary hike in a statement. The government also pledged to meet other demands by the workers, including cash in lieu of leave for teachers. Mubengegwi said the salary raise was in fulfillment of its agreement it reached with the workers earlier this year. Other benefits for the workers include alignment of rentals at institutional accommodation to housing allowances. The salary hikes come amid limited fiscal space that has seen government spending more than 90% of its revenues on wages. Miami-Dade police have identified 3 people who died when 2 small planes collided over the Everglades, Florida, USA. A search was initiated Wednesday morning for a possible 4th victim. An eyewitness said he and his friend were out fishing when the crash happened around 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. He took cell phone video which captured debris falling from the sky following the collision. Chopper 4 was over the scene where the planes went down south of Miami Trail, a few miles west of Chrome Avenue at mile marker 23. Nearly 30 Miami-Dade 5 rescue units were dispatched to the scene, where rescuers had to use an airboat to reach the remote area where the planes were. New Delhi officials say at least 3 people have been killed and several others are fear trapped after a building collapsed onto another structure in the suburb of the capital. There were at least 3 families living in the old building that collapsed under an under-construction building on Wednesday. The National Disaster Response Force, a federal rescue agency, along with the police, began the search and rescue operation Tuesday night, with officials saying that it will take several hours to clear the debris. Drills were being used to remove metal rods to reach those trapped, and a dog squad was at the site smelling for signs of life. The cause of the collapse was not immediately known, but a probe has been added into the incident by the district magistrate. 5 people were killed in Nepal on Wednesday by landslides and flooding brought on by monsoon rains, bringing the death toll to 90 across the country. Local police say a woman and her 2 children, one of them an infant, were killed when a landslide struck their home in a village in north-central Nepal's Gorkha district. Also in the district of Pabat, a teenage boy was buried alive and a man was swept away by a flooded river after a landslide engulfed 7 houses. According to Nepal's Home Ministry, over 55 people have been injured and 18 have gone missing in the monsoon-induced disaster in the last 1 month. A bitter row has flared up between a Spanish rescue charity and the Italian government after a dead migrant woman and child were found off the coast of Libya. Proactiva Open Arms posted images of bodies and its rescue of a surviving Cameroonian woman clinging to timber on their deflated dinghy. The charity said the Libyan Coast Guard had abandoned the tree and blamed Italy for backing it. Italy and the Libyan Coast Guard denied the charity's allegation. The Coast Guard said it had rescued 165 migrants on Monday from a damaged boat in the area where the dinghy was found, nearly 80 nautical miles off the coast. 16 refugees drowned and around 30 missing Wednesday after their boat sank in the Mediterranean off the north of Cyprus. The boat was carrying 150 people when it went down off the village of Yeni Erenkoi and the breakaway Turkish Cypriot-controlled portion of the island, which is only recognized by Ankara. Over 100 people were rescued in a joint operation by Turkish Cypriot and Turkish Coast Guard, reports added. South Africa on Wednesday marked 100 years since Nelson Mandela's birth, with a town hall forum hosted by Barack Obama and a work led by the anti-apartheid leader's widow, amongst a series of tributes. For this and other stories on the foreign scene, let's join Blessing Omaro.
His birthday on July 18th is marked annually around the world as Mandela Day, and the Nelson Mandela Foundation called for people to take action and inspire change in his name on the centenary year. Obama, speaking to 15,000 people at a stadium in Johannesburg on Tuesday, gave an emotional address recalling the wave of hope that washed through hearts all around the world when Mandela was released from jail in 1990. Mandela, who died in 2013, remains a global icon for his long fight against white minority rule and for his message of peace and reconciliation when he was released after 27 years in prison. Dozens of buses on Wednesday entered two government loyalist towns under siege from rebels in the northwest province of Idlib as part of a deal to evacuate residents to government-controlled areas. A commander in the regional alliance that backs Syrian President Bashar al-Assad told foreign media that some 6,000 people will leave, emptying out the mostly Shia towns of Al-Fahu and Kefraya. A deal for the evacuation of residents from the two Shia towns was first reached in April 2017, but had only partially materialized, with only a group of people evacuated to government-held areas. U.S. President Donald Trump insisted Wednesday that his meeting with Vladimir Putin could prove successful as he tries to quell fury in Washington after appearing to defy the Russian leader over U.S. intelligence chiefs, while the NATO meeting in Brussels was an acknowledged triumph, with billions of dollars more being put up by member countries at a faster pace. The meeting with Russia may prove to be, in the long run, an even greater success. The NATO summit was widely seen as a testy gathering that badly strained transatlantic ties.
Let's take a quick break now. When we return, the World News Review continues. Please stay with us.
Independent television is live 24 hours on Go TV, channel 107, Star Times, channel 130. And now you can watch from any part of the world on Roku TV, Smart TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Android TV for your favorite programs, news, current affairs, and lots more. You don't want to miss our objective and balanced reportage, entertainment, and sports. Now follow us via our social media channels on Twitter at ITV Radio NG. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ITV Radio NG. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/ITV Radio NG. Visit our website for more news stories and lots more, itvradioNigeria.com. Watch ITV via live streaming on the internet, itvradioNigeria.com/live, and click on the TV stream option. Also remember to visit your mobile app store and download the ITV app so you can watch on the go. Independent television, certainly the best.
You're still on to the World News Review on Independent Television Abuja. Moving on to other reports, the man regarded as the ringleader for a militant Islamic cell in Senegal has been sentenced to 20 years in prison by a court in the capital, Dakar, following the biggest trial of the suspected jihadists in the West African state. Maktar Diokane was described in court as the brains behind the cell, which sent boys to Nigeria to receive training from Boko Haram militants. The main accused, Alion Badara Ndoa, who is a prominent imam in Koualak City in central Senegal, was acquitted of being an apologist and financier of terrorism, but was sentenced to 1 month in prison for illegally possessing weapons. 14 other suspects were acquitted. 4 Malaysians and 3 Indonesian men with suspected links to the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, have been detained during a 5-day operation across 4 states in Malaysia. Malaysian Police Chief Muhammad Fuzi Harun said in a statement on Thursday that one of the suspects had threatened to assassinate the Malaysian King and Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad. Malaysia has been on high alert since gunmen allies with ISIL, also known as ISIL, carried out a series of attacks in neighboring Indonesia. A 34-year-old unemployed Malaysian man had issued the death threats against the King Sultan Muhammad V and Mahathir on his personal Facebook account, saying they were not ruling the country in accordance with the principles of what he proclaimed to be Islamic Sharia law. Thousands of residents from two rebel-besieged loyalist towns in northwestern Syria have been evacuated to government-controlled territory as part of a deal that will see hundreds of detainees released from state-run prisons. The last remaining residents of the predominantly Shiite towns of Al-Far and Kefaraya estimated that 6,000 departed. More than 100 buses arrived early on Thursday to transport them to government-held territories in Aleppo province. On Wednesday, rebels from Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a group formerly linked to Al-Qaeda and Iran-backed forces, reached an agreement to evacuate people in exchange for the release of more than 1,500 civilians and rebels held in state prisons. Thursday's evacuation began with ambulances ferrying out the sick to a government checkpoint before 121 buses departed the villages. United Nations human rights investigators said on Thursday Muslim Rohingya refugees reaching Bangladesh said violence, including torture, persists against them in Myanmar, and the overall environment remains menacing for ethnic and religious minorities. Members of the Independent International Fact-Finding Mission on Myanmar ended a 5-day visit to the refugee camp of Kutupalong on Cox's Bazar, where they interviewed new arrivals among the more than 700 Rohingyas who have fled Rakhine State since an army crackdown last August. There was no immediate reaction from authorities in Myanmar, where it is a holiday. Previously, they had denied widespread abuses. The United Nations struck an outline deal with Myanmar in May aimed at eventually allowing hundreds of thousands of Rohingya in Bangladesh to return safely and by choice. India Fire Brigade said the death toll from the collapsed apartment block outside Delhi rose to 9 on Thursday as emergency workers pulled 4 more bodies from a huge pile of rubble metal. The 6-story building caved in late Tuesday and crashed into a neighboring building, trapping more than a dozen people, including laborers and 2 families in Greater Noida, a satellite city east of India's capital. 5 bodies were pulled out on Wednesday as nearly 150 workers using steel cutters and drills and helped by sniffer dogs sifted through the tons of concrete and metal. Police have arrested 4 people, including the landowner, on charges of manslaughter and want to question 20 others. Israel's parliament have passed a controversial law characterizing the country as principally a Jewish state, fueling anger among its Arab minority. For this and more, let's join Evie Awari.
The nation-state's law says Jews have a unique right to national self-determination there and puts Hebrew above Arabic as the official language. Arab MPs reacted furiously in parliament, with one waving a black flag and others ripping up the bill. Israel's prime minister praised the bill's passage as a defining moment. Benjamin Netanyahu said 120 years after the founder of modern Zionism, Theodor Herzl, made his vision known, with this law will determine the founding principle of our existence, adding that Israel is the nation-state of the Jewish people and respects the rights of all of its citizens. However, the law risks further alienating Israel's large Arab minority, who have long felt discriminated against. Called the Basic Law, Israel as the nation-state of the Jewish people, the legislation essentially defines Israel first and foremost as a Jewish state. Among its 11 provisions, it describes Israel as the national home of the Jewish people and says the right to exercise national self-determination there is unique to the Jewish people. It also reiterates the status of Jerusalem under Israeli law, which defines the city part of which it's claimed by the Palestinians as the capital of a future state, as the complete and united capital of Israel. Meanwhile, police have launched a murder inquiry after a woman exposed to the nerve agent Novichok in Wiltshire died. Dawn Sturges, 44, died in hospital on Sunday evening after falling ill on 30th June. Charlie Rowley, 45, who was also exposed to the nerve agent in Amesbury, remains critically ill in hospital. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia was deeply concerned about the incident, but said accusations that it was involved are absurd. The United Kingdom government previously blamed Russia for the poisoning of former spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia with Novichok in Salisbury in March, although Russian authorities denied any involvement in the poisoning. Investigators say the possibility that the two cases are linked is a clear line of inquiry. Theresa May said she was appalled and shocked by the death of mother of three, Ms. Sturgess from Durrington. Home Sec Sajid Javid will chair a meeting of the government's emergency committee, COBRA, later today. A post-mortem examination of Ms. Sturgess is due to take place and her family has been informed, police said. The investigation is being led by detectives from the counter-terrorism policing network. Russian President Vladimir Putin has rounded on United States critics of his first bilateral summit with President Donald Trump. Certain forces in the United States wanted to sacrifice U.S.-Russian ties for their narrow party interest, he told a meeting of Russian diplomats in Moscow. They are feeding millions of their people's stories, he said. Mr. Trump has been accused of taking a soft line on Russia, which denied Trump appeared to support Mr. Putin's contention that there was no Russian interference in the presidential election, which saw Mr. Trump gain power. It followed meetings with fellow NATO leaders and a trip to the United Kingdom, which saw Mr. Trump take a far-header line in public with long-standing allies and subsequently with Mr. Putin.
And for Foreign News Friday, our correspondent is standing by.
14 people have been wounded, some seriously, in a knife attack on a bus in the German city of Leipzig. Police in the city in the northern state of Schleswig-Holstein said a major police operation was underway. Unconfirmed local media reports said the attacker was detained by police. The police said there are currently a major police deployment in Leipzig, examining the situation and will give more information. And lastly, a senior French presidential aide is to be dismissed from his job after footage emerged of protesters in the Paris being attacked by a man wearing a police visor. The action against Alexandre Benalla was taken after news facts emerged in the case, French President Emmanuel Macron's office said on Friday. Mr. Benalla is being questioned over the footage of the May Day protests. There were calls for him to be sacked after he was identified in a newspaper. Police are questioning Mr. Benalla, an assistant to Mr. Macron's chief of staff, over footage filmed by a student activist showing a woman and a man being beaten during the demonstration on 1st May. While he faces question over the assault, prosecutors said on Friday that he is also facing charges of impersonating a police officer.
And that has been the World News Review on Independent Television Abuja. Many thanks for watching. I'm Nkiru Obuli.